Hello and welcome to Victory in Vegas, the MMA betting podcast. This week we're going to break down our bets for UFC Fight Night 120 in Norfolk. I'm your host Newsome and I'm with my co-host Namreka. How's it going, man?
Yeah, not bad. Coming off a bad event on a UFC 217, but looking to get straight back on track with this one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had slightly worse events. I think I ended up minus 0.33. So considering I bet 16 units, I was quite happy with well, not obviously happy with the loss, but it could have been a lot worse for the type of what was happening on the night.
I nearly got swept, so I think you did all right considering.
Yeah, I mean, a few fights. Zahabi was winning, ended up losing. Anderson was winning, ended up losing. TJ got knocked down. Yeah,
Garbrandt looked like he was on his way to a win, but turned around pretty quick for him.
But there's always the next event. We'll always bounce back. So. Right, well, we'll move straight onto this card. So, just like last week, for anybody that didn't listen, that's listening for this podcast, how this works is myself and Namreka have got together our bets or potential bets for this card. We'll be breaking down those fights in full for you. Anything else that's left on the card that we've decided to pass on, we'll just quick fire at the end. So who we think is going to win, not too much back and forth, how they're going to win, maybe what round. But again, yeah, nothing too detailed on there. So I'll jump straight in on my first bet, and I think you've got a bet on it as well, which will be the main event on the night, which is Dustin Poirier against Anthony Pettis. So, I mean, it's a fight that I'm looking forward to be honest, and it should deliver fireworks because of personally the fighting style of Poirier. But I really do favour Pettis here. Poirier hits harder. He's got more knockout power. But I just don't think his striking defence is too good. He gets into these wild exchanges all the time. It's like he can't help himself. He comes in composed to start with, but then eventually you know it's gonna happen, and he's just gonna start swinging bombs, moving forward, which is great to watch. But Pettis is a really, really good striker. He's got some of the best kicks in MMA. He does fight well moving backwards as well. So from a stylistic point of view, I think if Dustin does decide to start pressing Pettis and, throwing bombs at him, I think Pettis will deal with it. Obviously, he's got, there's the chance that Pettis gets caught and he gets put away, but I just don't see it happening. I think Dustin will press the majority of the fight. Pettis will be mostly moving backwards. And I think really that will actually suit both guys rather than, one guy being out of his comfort zone. But while Dustin's aggressive coming forward, looking for that knockout shot, I think Pettis will be picking him apart from range, keeping on the outside, using his kicks, short 1-2s, just keeping Perriera at distance. I mean, in Perriera's last fight against Jim Miller, Miller really hurt his leg, and I think that slowed him down a lot. And I think, well, if Miller can do that, I mean, Pettis can definitely do that. And I think the other thing that goes from Pettis' point of view is an orthodox striker, whereas Dustin's a southpaw. So Dustin's body is going to be open to that, to the strong right leg from Pettis, whether it be his lead leg or his body. Not sure if a head kick will land, or if it does, maybe not too often, but he's definitely open to getting hit, and especially Dustin having problems in the past, with getting hit in, hitting the legs, slowed down. And that's exactly what happened in the Miller fight. If you go back and watch that, he did slow down massively to the point where he was taking Miller down, which I'm sure probably wasn't his game plan, with Miller being the grappler he is. But I think even if he does that against Pettis, though, I think Pettis has got the ground advantage over him as well. You saw Miller take Pettis down. Pettis, he didn't lay there. He wasn't happy to sit in guard. He was attacking from bottom. He was throwing submissions up from the bottom as well, just trying to do anything just to keep active and pressure Miller, even though Miller was on top of him. And I think if the new rules are in play with this UFC, which I would imagine they would be, if Dustin does take Pettis down and tries to spend too much time on top, I think Pettis will be the one scoring more, even though he's the one on the bottom. So I just think all round in this fight, stylistically, it's perfect for Pettis. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions with this, and from a technical point of view, both of them probably around the same level. But I just don't think. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I just don't think the fight's going to be as close as what people think it might be. I just don't see where Pettis loses this fight if he doesn't get caught and knocked out, or caught and rocked, and then Dustin really pressures him and puts it on him. I'm just not sure at all. I just think everything does go against Dustin here. Like I say, the fighting styles, he's really going to have to protect that body and be checking them leg kicks. Otherwise, it's going to be a long night for him, because eventually I think Pettis is going to break him down, and I think he'll get the finish. I would imagine maybe the TKO if it stays on the feet, but if for whatever reason it goes on the floor, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with a Pettis submission either. He's got a really, really underrated ground game, and I think some people forget it a little bit just because of the type of fighter he is, being a striker. So I've got 2 units on Pettis in this fight at plus 105. So I was really happy with that line. It was I got it a few months ago on BetSafe. It was, I think Dustin was the favourite at the time. So I did a bit of I had a lean on Pettis as it is, and I didn't think that price would stay around for a while. So I did a bit of emergency tape on that night, watched a few hours of tape, and that's what I mean. It just really solidly made me lean Pettis, and 2 units on that. So yeah, that's me. What about you?
Well, yeah, I agree with basically everything you said. Like, I'm very confident that Pettis will get the job done here. I don't see what Poirier will actually do in this fight. If he tries to be patient and stay at range, well, that's basically what Pettis loves. Like, if you stand and wait on him, he'll bring those kicks in hard, and that's his game. And if Poirier tries to attack him, he's, like you said, he's just way too open when he's aggressive. Like, you saw that against Jim Miller, where he tried to stay quite composed, but as soon as he got hit a few times, he just went into a brawl and got hit way more than he should, considering how much better of a striker I think he is than Miller. And against Pettis, you just can't do that. Like, his boxing is not perfect, but on the counter, he will slip in those straight punches that will rock you. Like against Gilbert Melendez, he landed, I think it was a beautiful straight right on someone who very rarely gets hurt, and then quickly finished with a submission. I can't see where Poirier can win this fight. Like, there's not really anything he can do, like stylistically or game planning, that I think will cover his deficiencies in defense to actually win this fight. Because everyone knows against Pettis, you got to push him back, you got to make him uncomfortable, but Poirier's too open to do that safely. So either he stands at range and he gets outpointed and just maybe knocked out with something at some point, or he goes for Pettis and he gets knocked out earlier. I don't see much avenue for victory for Poirier. And so I like Poirier. I think he's a really fun, underrated action fighter, but it's going to be his undoing in this fight. Pettis is just too skilled, too good of a counter puncher, too good everywhere for Poirier to really get much done, and he's got a good chin too. So yeah, like you, I see this as a Pettis victory all the way. I've got this in a parlay with something I'm pretty confident about, even though it's at plus odds. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that I've seen as well, and in a way, rightly so. I saw somebody say, but what Pettis is going to show up, basically inferring that we're not too sure where Pettis is right now. But I mean, I've got his record up now, and the last 4 losses, the last 4 people he's lost to is Max Holloway, Edson Barboza, Eddie Alvarez, and RDA Rafael Dos Anjos. So those at the time he lost three in a row. So from 2015 to the middle of 2016, he'd lost three on the bounce. RDA, Alvarez, and Barboza. For me, that's not so much of a right. He's gone. He's done. He's on his way out. He's declining.
And also
That's losing three
those
fights to
guys.
some top guys, and all three were decisions. And with the Eddie Alvarez one was a split as well. But then I think he might have had a bit of doubt in his mind as well. He dropped down to featherweight, thought that might be for him. He beat Charles Oliveira, and then he had that
Well,
sort of.
those guys all have very specific skill sets to beat him as well. Like Dos Anjos is one of the best pressure fighters around. Eddie Alvarez held him against the cage. Barbosa is a very slick fighter, very sensible defensively fighter, and he can really bring in those leg kicks. And Holloway is one of the best boxers you're going to find in the sport. So they've all got very
Exactly.
specific skill sets to beat a guy like Pettis, and that's not something I think I've ever seen from Poirier.
And then Pettis fought Charles Oliveira on his featherweight debut. He submitted Charles Oliveira, who's a really, good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And then his next fight after that, like we said, he lost to Max Holloway, who's everyone knows how good he is. And then he fights Jim Miller and he puts on an absolute clinic. Yes, it's declining Jim Miller. We spoke about that on the last podcast, but
Well, it's the same
you,
Jim Miller that Poirier struggled with, so
exactly. So, I mean, we all know MMA maths bullshit and, it doesn't really work out. But yeah, like you say, it's the same Jim Miller. And for me, I don't think Pettis ever went on a slump or ever looked like he was declining. He just lost to the best guys.
yeah,
And
it's the same flaws he's kind of always shown, but you had the right people to exploit them. Poirier is
exactly.
not the right person to exploit those flaws.
Now, I think it will be a closer fight in this fight if Dustin decides not to get in a brawl. I can't see it happening. He always
Well, I think
seems
if
like he's trying to stay disciplined and then completely loses the discipline and starts throwing bombs. But if he doesn't do that, I think it'll be a closer fight. But then you could argue if he doesn't do that, Pettis can utilise his kicks a little bit more. And
yeah, I think Pettis really actually quite loves people who don't rush at him. I know he's gained quite a few techniques for people who do because he's had to because that's what everyone wants to do, but anyone who stands at range with him is at great danger of like his kicks. Like he's going to slam those kicks in to the body, to the legs, to the head. Like against Oliveira did well when he had him against the fence and he was pushing him around and stuff, but at range he was just smashing Oliveira with those kicks. Like I think Poirier is done no matter where he takes the fight. I don't think it's going to be close no matter
I
what he
think all
does.
I think all fighters and all camps as well will watch tape on their opponents, and definitely the one that's relevant in this fight is the both of the Miller fights. And I think once Pettis' team look at how bad Dustin's leg actually got to the point where he wanted to take down a good grappler, I think they've got to target that. There's no way that they look at that tape and think, right, okay, we don't target that leg, because they know Dustin wants to rush him, throw bombs. They don't want to risk Pettis getting knocked out. They want Pettis to have a good fight, a solid fight, break the fight down, and by doing that, he's got to go for that lead leg. He's got to. So for me, I just think he's going to break Dustin down. And actually, one of the other lines that I looked at that I decided against was doesn't go the distance, which I think when I saw it was minus 175, which I think's actually quite a good line. I mean, it gives you insurance for that.
I think it's a little bit risky if Poirier does stay disciplined, because then he won't give those obvious openings to get knocked out. But it still could be a finish. But if
It's a
he
5 round fight, I
yeah,
tend to quite like the doesn't go the distance on 5 round fights, just
actually that's true. Yeah.
because it's a long time to fight, and it gives Pettis a long time to break Dustin down. I mean, if Dustin and Jim Miller was 5 rounds, how would
Oh
Dustin's
yeah,
leg have
Dustin
held
will
up?
get tired in this fight as well. He usually does get a little bit winded, mostly because of his own aggression. But if you watch like the Korean Zombie fight, the Cub Swanson fight, he does tire in most, even the Jim Miller fight actually.
Yeah,
He will tire. So and Pettis can go 5 rounds. He's done it before. Like against, I know it was a long time ago now, but that WEC fight against Benson Henderson, he threw the Showtime kick in round 5. I mean, if that doesn't show that you've got a bit
Yeah.
of stamina left in the tank, I don't know what does. And that was a high-paced fight. So, yeah, he's going all. Pettis can go all 5. Poirier, doubtful.
Yeah. So pretty much in agreement there. But yeah, I'm confident, and I think it'll cash. Have you got anything more to add?
No, I think I've said all I need to say on this one.
Cool. I'll lead with the next one as well. So this one we've got Andrei Arlovski against Junior Albini. Now, we've put this one as a breakdown. I haven't actually got it in any bets yet. I'm just waiting for a specific line, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But just a really interesting fight in general. I mean, Arlovski, obviously an MMA legend. He is declining. He is coming to his end. I think maybe not, definitely not from a skill point of view, or maybe, or his age. It's more to do with his chin. I think his chin's gone, and at heavyweight, that's just, you can't not have a chin at heavyweight. So Albini coming off the win against Tim Johnson. I actually bet Tim Johnson that fight. I bet him based on, I watched tape on both guys, but he's just an all-round tough guy, tough to beat, tough to put out, just tough to basically outpoint as well. And what I thought was going to happen was Tim Johnson press him against the cage, grind him up, tire him out, maybe get the knockout, maybe not. But either way, he's one of them heavyweights that can grind out decisions, which you can't really say a lot in that heavyweight division because knockouts happen so often. So that's the reason I bet Tim Johnson against Albini. And Albini comes out, he picks him apart, he separates from the clinch against the cage straight away, really starts getting off his shots, and then actually knocks Tim Johnson out, which in itself is a good achievement coming on UFC debut against one of the top guys in the division. So I think it really opened a lot of people's eyes up to Albini, and it has mine here. Now, the line that I'm waiting for, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to bet, but I'm looking at around Albini to win inside the distance. So obviously you'll get your KO, TKO, DQ, submissions, or if that line maybe doesn't take my fancy, I will be looking at just a straight KO, TKO. The only thing that worries me about this is Albini's got submissions on his record as well. Stuff like heel hooks and triangles, things like that. So he is good on the ground as well. Now, I think, to be honest with you, he's going to hit Arlovski at some point, probably early, a lot like the Tibora fight. But the difference is Albini packs that power that I don't think Tibora packs. And I think once Albini does hit Arlovski will drop like a sack of spuds. And I just don't think he's going to try and lock up a submission in that scenario. I think once he drops, he'll be looking just to finish it with punches, which obviously will then get you KO, TKO. So that's my prediction ultimately. There's not too much in it in regards to breaking it down. I think Albini will stay out the way of Arlovski's power, because Arlovski still does have power himself, but ultimately if Albini's knocking Tim Johnson out, once he hits Arlovski, I just do not see that chin holding up whatsoever. So I don't see any value betting Albini straight, especially not at the odds now. I think he was like minus 280 last time I saw. Yeah, best you can get him minus 275. So I don't think there's much value in that whatsoever. I think you're better off with a prop in this one, and that's the one I'm looking at. If I can get it at a decent price, I'm hoping maybe around the minus 160 mark. I'll probably put maybe 1.5 or 2 units on that. Like I said, just line dependent really, but that is what I'm looking at. So what about you?
Yeah, I'm basically the same on this one too. I think this is going to be a very agreeable podcast. But I don't know if you remember back when Albini was fighting Johnson, I actually did a bit of tape on Albini and thought he actually looks a little bit better than you give him credit for. Like he is. He's not terrible at all. I still don't think I know enough about him to actually throw units at him. But you're right about Arlovski. I actually think he's always had a bad chin, but as he's got a bit older and the punishment has taken its toll, he's lost a little bit of reactions, a little bit of speed, and now his chin's even easier to hit. Like, the thing about Arlovski is he's always been, like, back in his prime, he was, like, skillfully one of the best fighters in the world. Like, he gave Ferriera a hell of a fight, but he always had that crutch where if you tagged him, he'd probably go. So now he's lost a bit of speed, he's lost a bit of reactions, and I think Albini will find his chin at some point, and he will take him out. It's not a very detailed breakdown I can really have on this because I know Arlovski is the better fighter, and he usually is in pretty much any fight that he goes into, other than like the top five. But that chin is just, it's not there. It's just anything. He could get knocked out by a jab at this point. I think it's like if Albini hits him, he'll go, and I think Albini will hit him. I don't think you're going to get great odds on the inside the distance, just because I think the bookies know that Arlovski, if he loses, is probably going to be by knockout. I don't think Albini's going to. If Albini's out pointing him, he's landing punches, and if he's landing punches, Arlovski's going to go. So I don't
Well,
really see.
I'm actually just looking at the odds now, and to be honest, I quite like them. We've got Albini wins inside the distance. This is US books, by the way, so I don't think there's anything out in the UK just yet. But normally it's not too far away. So we've got Albini to win inside the distance at -166, and we've got the KO TKO for Albini at -150. So that's where I want it to be. So I can definitely see a bet here.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I
I
didn't
don't know
expect
whether
that. I think the bookies have messed up a bit there because I think the odds for Albini winning should be very close to him getting a knockout. To be honest, I don't see.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
just going back to the Tim Johnson thing, I've just looked at his record as well. He's actually the first person to knock Tim Johnson out.
yeah,
So
Tim Johnson is tough as nails. Like if you're knocking him out, you've got power. There's no two
so
ways
before
about it.
that was Tim Johnson's 14th pro fight at heavyweight. And he'd not been knocked out in 14 fights at heavyweight. That's quite impressive.
Yeah,
And
and
then Albini
we've seen
comes
him
in and,
take some punches too. So
well, absolutely, he's fought Tibora himself. He's fought Volkov. Just looking down at some hitters. So yeah, I mean he's fought some decent dudes, and Albini came in and knocked him out. So looking at them lines, I don't know whether to be greedy and go for the -150
I think
or
you
just be
sh-
safe.
I think you should be greedy.
But we'll see. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a bet, and I think at that I might throw 2 units on that because I really do like that line. But if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see any updates that I put on for bets, or if you go onto my website
Yeah,
newsomemma.co.uk,
and
you'll
even
see
if
it.
we don't put that bet on, like consider it yourself. Like I think it's a good bet, even if we don't touch it. Like we've both got quite a few bets on this card, so we might stay away from it. But it's one that I'd recommend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, it's a good line. I've only got 3 bets on right now, so I don't really like betting more than 4 in a card. I know I broke them rules at UFC 217, but the magnitude of the card and the fact it traps you into giving you a load of good lines always makes you bet more than what you want.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I definitely look at it if you're interested in it. It's a good line. Okay, so
Okay, moving on.
you'll go.
Okay, so Assuncao against Lopez. I've actually got a small bet on Lopez here, which is always a worrying thing, putting a bet against Assuncao because you know he's probably going to be in a close fight. But I got this at plus 305, and I think those odds are off. Lopez is a young, strong fighter who's learning all the time. Like he's always improving. I made the mistake of betting against him in his last fight, and he proved me wrong. And he's got a lot of power. He's got stamina. He's aggressive, which might get him in trouble. Like I think he got dropped by Rani Yaya, just sort of like lunging in, and I'm kind of worried that he can do that here. Assuncao doesn't crack really hard, but he can hurt you. But I think the pace that Lopez is going to bring is something that Assuncao doesn't want to fight at. I've never seen Assuncao straight up gas, but when someone is very determined to fight at a slower pace, you always wonder why that is. So I think he enjoys a slower pace, and I don't think Lopez is going to give him that slower pace. I I actually see this being mostly a stand-up fight, and I know Assuncao a slightly better striker, but I'm just going on physical attributes on that. If he gets him down, I think it's quite a close fight too. But Lopez can scramble very well, and he he can do it all really. Like I've got some high hopes for Lopez. Like going forward, I think he's a very good prospect. Just is always a worry with Assuncao. Like I feel like he'd have a close fight with anyone. Like he could have a close fight with some of the top guys in the division, and then still have a close fight with some of the lower guys in the division. So yeah, I've only got 0.47 units on it. It's not a massive bet, but the odds will bring me back some. I think a unit. So I'm happy with the bet. I always worry about Lopez's tendency to jump in recklessly. He But he is improving all the time, so there's a little bit of leeway where I think maybe Lopez can make a little bit more improvement and not do something that will get him into trouble. So, yes, I'm not that confident about the bet. That's why I've put so little on it. But plus 305, those odds are just not representative of this fight at all. So, like, what do you think? 'Cause I know
No,
some.
I agree, and from when the lines got posted, I said it on Twitter a few times that I think the lines are massively off. I mean, I bet Lopez last time out against was it Johnny Eduardo,
Yeah, Johnny Eduardo.
and everything that I thought was going to happen in that fight happened just because of the way Lopez fights. Now, I don't hate the bet at all. What you've put on, and like I say, I agree with the lines being off. I'm not betting it myself, just because I'm not sure, and I'm never normally the type of person, the type of better to bet based on someone's lines being slightly off.
Yeah, this is like where we differ as like betters. Like if I was gonna just straight up pick this fight, I'd probably pick a Sunsao. This is me looking at the odds and saying the bookies are fucked up here. This is a really close fight, and Lopez could inch out a decision here. I know you want to be super confident about any bet you make, but
Yeah,
I will sort of take these like little
but then, like I
shots.
say, I don't hate on that, because obviously everyone's got their own their own betting technique, and there's a lot in a way there's a lot of sense behind doing that as well. But no, I mean, for me, I think Lopez wins his fights in this division by taking guys down. I don't think he's going to get Assuncao down. Assuncao's got one of the best takedown defense records in the division. I don't see Lopez taking him down, but I do get where you're coming from in regards of Lopez being aggressive, and I think he will be the one that dictates the pace in this round, in this fight. Just because Assuncao, he doesn't really show great movement or
No,
you know
he's very
anything like that.
static. He likes to
Yeah, he
stay very
is.
still and time those
But then that,
counters.
in a way, that suits him a bit like how Machida likes to fight moving backwards. So it suits him when fighters are dictating the pace. But that could be his undoing in this fight against a young, hungry guy like Lopez. And just something to mention as well is Lopez is at that young age right now where he is getting better dramatically between each fight, and that's something that I've said in a few conversations I've had with different people as well. So it can be quite misleading in a way if you're watching tape on Lopez and then betting Assuncao, because Lopez could come in looking not just a little bit better but a lot better. He's at that age now where he's jumping leaps and bounds between each fight. So I mean, from a pick point of view, I've got to go with Assuncao because he's just a tough guy. Like you said, he always fights close. He always just does enough. I mean, even though I don't think his last fight, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more later on as well, I don't think he won his last fight, but he
No.
always just does enough, and I think
He does enough
he
to
can
make the
he can
judges
count.
think twice. Is like with that Moraes fight, he did enough to make the judges consider that he might win the rounds, even though
Yeah,
we don't
which he
think he
did.
did.
No. So yeah, I mean, he will counter Lopez coming forward. He will have to defend takedowns, but I don't think if he's been defending takedowns from people like TJ Dillashaw, I don't think he's going to have too much of an issue with Matt Lopez. But I do agree with you in regards to how Lopez's ceiling. I do think he's got a pretty high ceiling. But no bet for me in this one. I really
It's
don't. I
yeah,
really don't.
it's quite a hard one to break down for a podcast when you're slightly picking the guy you're betting against. Like,
Yeah,
I can't like sit here and sort of like confidently give you 1,000 reasons why Lopez is going to win. I think he has a chance to win, and I think he has a much better chance than plus 305 odds. That's basically where the
exactly.
bet comes from.
But yeah, from a final pick point of view, I'll be picking Assuncao, and I'll be going probably a split decision because that's Assuncao. That's Assuncao all over. But yeah, I don't hate the bet that you've got on it all.
Yeah, good. So moving on.
Yep.
Okay, so Lauzon versus Guida. I think stylistically this is Guida's fight. Like Lauzon is someone who will come out very aggressive early on, but he will always tire. Like every single fight you've ever seen Lauzon in, he probably has tired. He'll come out aggressive. He'll probably knock Guida about early on. Probably land some really nice elbows. He might even get him down and start beating him up on the ground too. But Guida's like endless stamina. He's gonna he's gonna be a gamer in this fight. He's gonna be in it for the entire 3 rounds, and I feel like he's gonna pick up those last 2 rounds quite dominantly when Lauzon starts to tire. Like we've seen Lauzon again. I think Stevie Ray is a good fight to watch where Lauzon absolutely smashed Stevie Ray in that first round, and it looked like he was well on his way to a win. But just like always, he tires. He puts his hands up like in that shelled up defense, and he just had. It looks like he doesn't have anything left, and just his heart will push him through to the end half the time. But Guida's not going to let him rest when he's tired. Guida's just he's a dog, let's be honest. He's just not going to give him a moment to breathe. He's going to be going for those takedowns. He's going to be throwing his hands. Like, I just see this being a close first round, possibly Lauzon first round, but Guida just mopping the floor of him for the last 2 rounds and taking either a decision or maybe even a late stoppage. So,
I mean, yeah, just one thing just to quickly add on to what you've just said before I forget is in that Stevie Ray fight as well, Lauzon actually tired himself by doing what he does. So he tired himself by grappling Stevie Ray.
yeah, and
So,
grappling
you
Guida
know,
is going to tire you a hell of a lot more as well because
exactly.
Guida's going to scramble. He's not just going to, like, Stevie Ray's not great when you take him down, so you can sort of just you can set your position and you can land your ground and pound, but Guida's not going to let you do that. He's going to be scrambling, he's going to be moving, he's going to be making you work even when you're winning the fight.
Yeah, I mean, Lauzon's just got a different. He's just on a different level with his gas tank because, like, you can sort of let a fighter off. You know, if they've blown the tank by either, like we mentioned earlier about Dustin Poirier, being aggressive and throwing too many shots, or even when the fight's not going your way and someone else having their own way with their game plan. You can sort of get that when if a fight is cardio goes, but to actually blow your cardio doing what your best attribute of what you've been doing for years is just crazy. And yeah, I totally agree with what you've said. And I'm on Guida as well. I've got 2 units on him at plus 110.
Yeah, I've actually got him in the parlay with Pettis, and I'm actually very confident about Guida to win, even though he's only plus 110. I was quite surprised at those odds, and
Yeah.
I
Well, I mean, I
was
don't know whether you saw it.
I've
I'm
also
always
got a
for.
straight bet on Guida. I will say that.
Okay, how much you got in the straight?
On the straight, I got 0.91. I know. I'm a real pussy on my units, but
You like to get that 1 unit back, don't you?
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know if you saw how the line went. They opened up as a total pick'em, and then people obviously bet Lauzon, and Guida then dropped to the underdog, and then it switched again, went back to a pick'em, and then now Guida's slightly favourite. But I mean, the UK odds. I mean, we're saying this now. This should be out later today. This podcast, and Paddy Power and Betfair, I think it is, have still got the plus 110, even though Guida's like minus 120 over in America. So if you're listening to this and you like what you're hearing, and you're fancying Guida yourself, and get yourself over to Paddy Power and Betfair, because I said this a few days ago. I didn't think it was going to stay around, but I was wrong. It is still around, which is just crazy.
yeah.
So
The UK odds are sometimes slow to catch on. Luckily for
yeah,
us.
yeah. So, but yeah, I agree with everything that you've said. I think cardio speed and movement alone, so taking out all the skill of the fight, I think that alone could win Guida this fight. Just even if he ran away from him for a round and let Lauzon just blow his gas tank and then take over the fight. There's so many ways Guida can win here, but ultimately I think it will come down to the fact that Lauzon's blown his gas tank. Guida won't stop. He looked really sharp in his last fight against Eric Koch, which you'll know, like everyone was betting Koch quite heavily. And I was there in DMTU saying, I think Guida's got this. I think he's got this. I'm going to bet him.
We were both saying that a bet against Guida here is not a good idea. Like,
yeah, and what do you know? I don't bet it, and then Guida comes out and puts on a clinic against the guy that nobody expected him to. But I think part of that as well comes with the move to Team Alpha Male, and I know I've said this to you before as well, and I really like that move for him. I think it's perfect. Alpha Male seem to get the best out of the lower weight fighters, and also fighters that are coming
frame and like skill set very much suits Alpha Male too. Like he's almost one of them already. Like the way he fights. Obviously, he hasn't got the striking pedigree of like a guy like TJ or Faber or Benavidez, but like when you sort of look at how he fights and like his skill set, he fits right into Alpha Male. It's no surprise that he's improved a lot since going there.
Exactly, and he's like, I think he's 30, 34, 35 now, something like that. And I think Team Alpha Male also do a good job at prolonging fighters' careers as well. Like, I mean, if you look at Faber declined years before he actually quit, but he was still in there with decent guys.
Yeah, he's still scraping at those wins, wasn't he?
Exactly, right, yeah. And I just think here, I'm a bit like when I bet Tony Ferguson to beat Kevin Lee. I'm totally comfortable knowing that my fighter, Guida in this case, is probably going to lose the first round. Totally comfortable with that. There's going to be a storm that'll have to be weathered from Lauzon. But I think Guida's is more than capable, to weather that storm. The only thing that worries me about Lauzon, is Guida has got a bad track record of getting submitted by rear naked chokes. So my only concern in this fight is if he does get taken down and gives up his back. But if that doesn't happen in the first 4 minutes, because I think Lauzon will need a lot longer than a minute to work on Guida to get his back. I think if that doesn't happen in the first 4 minutes of this fight, it won't happen at all. So, that's a risk worth taking for me, especially at plus odds. I do think Guida's got good scrambles as well. That's only going to have improved by going to Team Alpha Male because they're all that same sort of guy. I think it's going to get into the second round. Guida's going to take over. He's going to be pressing him, grinding on him against the cage. I'm not sure whether he opts to go for the takedowns or not, just in case, because Lauzon is a good grappler. But I think Guida's top control with a tired Lauzon might be enough to hold him anyway. But ultimately, I just think his speed, movement, coming in and out of shots, landing leg kicks, jabs, I just think the entirety of what Clay Guida does is just going to be too much for Lauzon. And I do predict a unanimous decision victory. I don't think he gets the finish on Lauzon. I don't know if he's got that finishing instinct anymore. But definitely the odds were crazy for this at plus 110.
Well, he did come quite close to finishing Eric Koch in there. And
if
Lauzon does really tire, I could definitely see him picking up a finish ground and pound.
I hope so, because it'll make it better than going into the judges' hands. In my notes, I actually had this at minus 130, I think. So to what the odds are now, it's quite close. But I think Guida's got value up to minus 130. But like I say, as of speaking right now, Paddy Power and Betfair have still got him at plus 110. So if you're listening to this, you like Clay Guida, bet it, man. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I've really got for Guida. Yeah, I think he takes a comfortable decision.
So you next.
Yeah. So we've got John Dodson and Moraes. Now, close fight. I think Moraes had a lot of hype behind him coming into his UFC debut against Assuncao, which we mentioned slightly earlier.
A lot from
he lost. Yeah, he lost. He lost the decision. I'd bet him as well, so I lost that bet. So it was quite difficult to swallow. But for me, he did beat Assuncao. One of the judges on the night scored that 30-27 to Assuncao. Let's just get that out there right now, which is probably the single worst piece of judging that I think I've ever seen in MMA. To say that
shocking.
To say that Assuncao took 3 rounds is ridiculous. But anyway, we won't dwell too much on that. But it did show a lot of where Moraes is at. Now, I don't think he underperformed. I just think that when he was fighting in the World Series of Fighting, he was getting some good fights, but ultimately no disrespect to any of their fighters, but they're not on the level of your Assuncaos and the top 15 of the UFC. So yeah, it showed you sort of where Moraes is at in regards to his level in the top of his competition. So I wasn't too impressed, to be honest. I mean, when you look at tape in the World Series of Fighting, he really did put it on guys. He was breaking them down with leg kicks, and I think he finished a couple of guys with leg kicks as well, and just overall just breaking them down before getting a finish or getting a comfortable decision. And you just didn't see that against Assuncao. And like we mentioned earlier, Assuncao isn't the type of guy to really use his speed or movement or anything. He's quite static. So for Moraes not to be able to break that down does raise a lot of questions for me. Now, John Dodson, on the other hand, he's known for his speed, his pace, constant movement. He could probably fight for 10 rounds if he needed to. Obviously, he's gone 5 rounds twice with Demetrius Johnson, which, in my opinion, take off the first round that Johnson had against Tim Elliott, was probably the hardest fights that Mighty Mouse has had. And this is the guy that everyone's claiming, staking a good claim to being the greatest of all time, the pound for pound king. So Dodson is a good fighter. He's a very, very good fighter. He's smart. He moves in and out, like I say, constantly moving. And I think 2 things here. I think one, he's just going to be too fast for Moraes. Just period. He's going to be in and out. He's going to be hitting Moraes with the shots, moving out of range. I can't see this going to the ground, but Moraes wins fights, like I mentioned earlier, by breaking down his opponent's leg kicks, body kicks, breaking down before starting to take over. And I just do not think Dodson is going to be there to be hit with the leg kicks. I don't think he's going to be there to be hit with the leg kicks and then Moraes moving in with his boxing, which is okay as well, hitting him with the 1-2s. He's going to be moving constantly. He's going to frustrate Moraes. I don't think Moraes is really going to get much of his game going. A little bit like what I said with Masvidal last week. I think if Dodson lets Moraes get his game going, then yeah, I think Moraes can win. But that's not Dodson, and we don't see a different Dodson every fight either. We see the same Dodson every fight. He's no different, so you know what to expect from him. A little bit like Moraes in a fashion. I know we've only seen him once in the UFC, but yeah, I just think this is Dodson's fight to win. And I'm really, really shocked by the odds as well. I've got 2 units on this at -104, which was a price boost from Will Hill down from -111, I think. So really good odds. I had in my notes, and some people might laugh at this, but this is just where I saw the value to after watching tape, and I had in my notes at Dodson at -185, which again might seem ludicrous with the odds that we're looking at now, but that's what I was expecting. So to actually see the odds at -104 all over that, absolutely can't. It's a good bet. I just think it's a bad fight for Moraes, and I feel a bit sorry for the dude because it was a tough outing in his debut against Assuncao, one that I think he won that he ended up losing, and then his second fight's now against John Dodson, which I think is a worse fight for him than his last. So yeah, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I do actually think Moraes did underperform in his Assuncao fight. He just didn't throw his leg kicks, and against someone like Assuncao, who takes a lot of leg kicks in a lot of his fights, it baffled me because most of my thoughts on making that bet were if he can land his leg kicks, he can easily win this fight, but he just didn't throw those leg kicks at all. So I can't really trust him anymore. Like, a fighter does that and I think his IQ isn't on point or his game planning isn't as good as it should be. So, But against Dodson, I do think he could land his leg kicks if he throws them. Like, I if you push a fighter back and you throw a leg kick, he can't check it. Like, when you're moving, you can't lift that leg up fast enough to stop a guy kicking you. So I do see a path to victory for Moraes. I see if he can push Dodson back and keep landing those kicks, he will take away that speed and movement from Dodson, and then Dodson will be a sitting duck, being the much smaller man at bantamweight. I mean, he's not a bantamweight really. He's a flyweight, and you can every fight he's in, he looks quite massively undersized.
Yeah, he moved up because of Mighty Mouse, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, I think he did anyway, just
Well,
because
yeah,
he knew that.
he knew he couldn't get a third fight after losing two. So, but yeah, I do see that path to victory from Moraes. But if he doesn't follow that game plan that he should, Dodson will just circle around and outbox him all day. He might even knock him out because I don't think Moraes does have a really good chin. He got quite badly rocked against Assuncao a couple of times
Well,
in that fight.
that's something you've just mentioned there, the word circling, and I was going to come back to this, but now you've mentioned it. So when you were saying about the leg kicks being checked, moving backwards, you're right, but Dodson doesn't move backwards a great deal.
When you circle,
Angle.
you can circle right into the leg kick, depending on which way you circle. If he
Yeah,
circles
exactly.
away from that leg kick, he should be okay. But like Dodson will circle both ways. He's not someone who's gonna be like in any of his like against Lineker. He did do a good job of circling the right way away from that big punch, but he's got to have that in his mind, and he might not expect too many leg kicks from Moraes after seeing his last fight. I don't know. It's like this is. I feel this is a fight that is almost in Moraes' hands. Like I know you don't want to hear that being like big on Dodson, but if Moraes fights the right way, I very much see him being able to outpoint Dodson. Maybe probably not stop him but if he really takes those legs out, Dodson will be a sitting duck, and then possibly a finish is on the cards. But
I just don't think he's going to be there for those leg kicks. I think he even if Moraes comes into this and thinks, you know what, this is, I am going to try and break him down like I've tried to break all my other fights down. Dodson doesn't stay still enough to get hit by leg kicks, and you know you're right in what you're saying. If he circles the wrong way, he can get hit with the leg kicks. Yes, he can, but is Moraes going to be able to break his kicks down that much that it slows Dodson down and allows Moraes to take over? I just don't think he. I don't think he is.
Moraes has really good leg kicks when he lands them. I think I don't think it would take that many to start to bother Dodson. Like we've seen many fights where a guy will land like 4 or 5 solid leg kicks and the guy will already be hobbling. So I do I can definitely see this going against you. Like, but there's always that risk with Moraes if he is coming forward that he gets hit with a counter. Like there's a lot of risk even to throwing those leg kicks. So it's not a bet I'd make because I can see it going two ways. I can see Dodson definitely cracking him a few times, even if he doesn't finish him, like hurting him enough to take those rounds. And
Yeah, I
also
don't think he's going to finish Moraes.
also scaring Moraes off from throwing the leg kicks. Like if Moraes goes to throw a leg kick and gets absolutely smashed with a big right hand or whatever, like I he's going to be a lot more hesitant to set up those leg kicks again.
Yeah, I mean, I just from an overall point of view, I think Dodson is the quicker guy. You know, Moraes is a little bit more static. Yes, he's got the capability of breaking fighters down with his leg kicks, but I think even when you look at it from the skill perspective, I just think Dodson's better everywhere. And like I say, I'm really surprised on the line. Now, I'm not saying that Moraes has got no chance to win this fight. I'm not even going to say the only chance is Puncher's chance. You know, he can legitimately win this fight if he is able to close on Dodson, if he is able to start landing his shots. But man, that's so difficult to do with Dodson. And if this was a rematch with Assuncao or off the top of my head, I can't think of any other fighters at the division. But if this was against another guy that wasn't as fast as Dodson, I would still probably be favouring Moraes because I do think he's a good fighter. It's just the style of Dodson, I can just see frustrating him so much that he's not going to be able to get much off. And if he can't break Dodson down by slowing him down, then Dodson's just going to keep moving constantly for 3 rounds. My ultimate prediction is Dodson to win a unanimous decision. I think it'll be 30-27.
Yeah,
Unless...
I think if it does go long and Moraes doesn't land many leg kicks, it will be quite a clean victory for Dodson.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, obviously you've made it quite clear why you've passed on the bet, which is cool. Everyone sees stuff differently.
I pass, in a way I'm passing on the bet on both guys. I could actually get behind someone else betting on either guy, because
yeah.
I see a way either of them can win. But because I see a way either of them can win, I could never make the bet myself.
Yeah, I think that Moraes needs to do something really specific that not many people have ever done to Dodson. I don't think anyone's ever slowed him down. Even Mighty Mouse Dodson was still moving pretty quick all through both of them fights. So I just don't see Moraes doing something that most people, if not everybody that's ever fought Dodson, hasn't been able to do.
I haven't got his record up right now, but has Dodson actually ever fought someone who's really gone for his legs?
Just bringing it up now. So, I mean, obviously Johnson's a bit is all rounded, but
yeah, but he's not the guy who's really gonna just smash those leg kicks in.
No, he doesn't really look like he has, to be honest. I mean, TJ's probably your next best bet, but again, not a guy known for destroying your legs.
Yeah, and at
But
that time TJ was a much lesser fighter than what we see now.
yeah, absolutely. So no, maybe not, but we'll see. Like I said, I had Dodson at -185, so actually seeing him at -104 was quite a nice surprise. But I think it's going to cash.
Well, yeah.
It's not going to be the biggest shock in the world if it doesn't. Like I say, I've said it before. I'm not giving Moraes no chance because he does have opportunities to win this fight. I just don't see it.
I'll pull for Dodson in your honour.
Right. Well, on that note, we'll move on. So yeah, just 2 units for Dodson at me at -104. So I'll let you call the next one.
Okay. Court McGee versus Sean Strickland. Yeah, I've got a bet on McGee here. I was surprised by the odds. Like McGee at +216 against Strickland, who he's a very inactive fighter. He never seems to want to do enough to win fights. Like he just seems to want to do just enough, and he's fighting someone in Court McGee who, like, in a sort of similar vein to Guida, he's a gamer. He's going to keep coming forward. He's going to keep throwing. He's never going to let you rest. He's going to walk you down. I mean, I know it's a very long time ago now, but if you watched his fight with Robert Whittaker, he kept coming forward. He took anything that Whittaker could throw at him, and he really grinded him down in that fight. And Whittaker looked exhausted by the end of it. And I think like Strickland just doesn't do enough. Like, and Court McGee's not a guy you're just gonna catch and take out. Like, he's only been stopped once in his entire career, and that was against Ponzinibbio, and Ponzinibbio can hit as hard as anyone. So yeah, I see McGee outworking him. I don't see Strickland really being able to do much to stop the forward march of Court McGee. I don't know why these odds are +216. It's quite surprising to me. Like, just as soon as, like, even before tape, I sort of thought I was on McGee, and then I watched tape, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, Sean Strickland he's a lazy fighter. I know it sounds harsh, but he just, I mean, we all watched him against Usman, where he just did nothing. He had no motivation to try and win the fight, no motivation to keep up the work rate with Usman. Like, he had nothing. And I know McGee's not that kind of a fighter, but I think he's a better pressure fighter than Usman. I can give him that. And I just think he's going to push him back all night. He's going to keep landing those little shots. He doesn't throw hard, but he'll just sort of pump out those little shots. He'll get the clinch, and he'll pump out a few more shots, and he'll just keep doing that for the entire fight. Like, there's no mystery about Court McGee. And Strickland I don't think he's equipped to deal with it. I think this is a really bad stylistic matchup for him. I feel like the guys he beats are people like Alex Garcia, who will gas, and guys like Luke Barnett who won't put on the kind of output. Like, this is just it's a bad fight for him. Like, simple as that. I just like Court McGee is he's not the best fighter in the world or anything. He's a hard working fighter, and he's going to
Yeah.
be hard working in this fight. And I don't think Sean Strickland is a hard working fighter. Like, just straight up, I don't think he does enough in his fights to win most of the time. So yeah, you got anything on this?
I've got no bets on it. It's a pass for me. I was tempted with a bet on McGee, but as we mentioned earlier, I like to be super confident on my bets. On my pick in order to make the bet, and I just wasn't here. Even though the line's nice. I don't mind Strickland. I think he's got a good jab. I think he's got decent movement, decent striking.
He is skillful. Like, I'm not like taking away it from his
Yeah.
skills.
I think with the Usman fight though, it's tough to. I just flat out don't think you can judge
Well,
anybody
he
at
didn't
Strickland's
even.
level against someone like Usman, because Usman's an absolute monster.
The problem was though,
Um,
he didn't look like he was trying to win. That's like
yeah,
that's a
I
big
think
red
his
flag to
confidence
me.
got knocked pretty much straight away. Once he got dumped once or twice, I think he thought in his head, right, this is it, which must be demoralising. But I mean, I've not got a great opinion on it. Like I say, I think Strickland striking's okay. He has got a really good jab. He uses it really well, which is such an underrated tool and one that should be used more in MMA. We see the same things from like GSP as
Well,
well.
it will come in handy in this fight. A good jab, someone coming at
But
you.
like you say, I mean, I think McGee's going to pressure him. I think he can land takedowns if he can close the distance. But ultimately, I think it is going to be a really, really close fight. From a pick point of view, like I say, I was tempted to bet on McGee, but I wasn't super confident. So I suppose my pick is McGee, and I'll maybe go a 29-28 decision. I think Strickland will have his moments here, but ultimately, I think the pressure of McGee,
Yeah, just the
moving
output.
forward.
Like,
Yeah, I think that'll
I
be
can
enough
see
for
it
him.
being a 30-27, to be honest. Like, I can see Strickland landing some good shots, but just the overall work rate of McGee landing more will take the rounds.
We'll put it this way: if McGee can get past that jab, he's going to win the fight. Because, and I'm not saying Strickland has only got his jab, but what I'm saying is Strickland uses that to set up a lot of stuff, to keep a lot of guys away, use it as an offence and a defence mechanism as well. So if McGee gets past that jab, he will win the fight. So for me, it's either does he have trouble with it and get picked apart and start getting busted up, or does he really, like I say, move past it, close distance. And I think if he does, he'll win the fight. I think if he does allow him to get pieced up by the jab and really starts coming unstuck on the night, then I think he loses the fight. But ultimately, I think McGee's good enough to have decided to camp and drill that jab and make sure that he's got ways around it. So yeah, like I said, no bet from me, but McGee close decision.
Yep, I ain't got much more to say on it. I mean, this seems to be quite a theme with my fights my bets on this card, that I pick the guy who works more. Pretty
Yeah.
much all my straight bets.
Okay, well, move on to the next then.
Yeah, so Jake Collier versus Marcel Fortuna. Uh, well, like I just said, it's another one where I think the high work rate fighter will win. I actually don't think Fortuna's that good anywhere. Like, he he's very good on the ground. I mean, that's like, if he gets him down, he probably will do some good work. But Collier does have some good takedown defense, and he's just so active on the feet. He will always be doing something. Like, it's not always the most quality work, but he'll be hitting out those little front kicks, little leg kicks, throwing the good punches. Like, he's just gonna be working for the whole fight. And if you watch Fortuna's fights pre UFC, he will gas. Like, he's not someone who's gonna be working high for even more than a round. He's going to gas, and I think he's going to gas very hard. And Collier, he's just another fighter who's just he works very hard. He's not the most physically gifted fighter you're ever going to find, but he will just push that pace for the entire fight and keep landing punches. And I don't think
Yeah, he's a
Fortuna,
grinder, isn't he?
yeah, and I don't think Fortuna is going to be able to keep up, and I don't think he's going to be able to hit takedowns easily either. Collier is a good defensive wrestler. Like the only guys who've taken him down were what's the guy's name?
Oh, don't say it.
Devon Clark, that guy.
Okay, you
That's
said it.
that's like, and when he gets knocked out, it's usually by something spectacular. I know Fortuna does have a bit of power in his hands, so I'm a little bit worried about him because Collier doesn't have good defense. He sort of pulls straight back from punches and often gets hit. But yeah, I think he'll just push through, maybe have a close first round again. Like, I think I've been saying the same thing about every fight I've bet on so far, but he's going to have a close first round, but I think his stamina will push him through to the end, and his work rate will pick up the rounds. So yeah, have you got much on this?
Again, just a straight up pass for me. I, I don't mind. I think Fortuna is. I think nobody really gave him too much coming into the UFC, and I think he's proved a few people wrong. For a start, he wasn't a heavyweight fighting Anthony Hamilton, yet he knocked him out on his debut on short notice. But then you look at the other side of that coin, and
Spectacular knockout as well. That was
yeah. But then you look at, like I say, you look at the other side of the coin, and you could probably argue that some flyweights might be able to knock Anthony Hamilton out right now. So,
yeah.
it's.
I think Rose
I
Namajunas, if
suppose
she
he's
hit,
got to take credit for what he did. Scored a knockout, awesome stuff. But then he moves on against Johnson, someone that I'm actually quite high on. Decent performance against him. You can't knock it. He took a round more than I expected him to take. Not the worst performance in the world. So from that point of view, I do give Fortuna a little bit of credit. Now then, you look at Collier, and like I say, he's a grinder. He's nothing, he's nothing spectacular, but he'll be in there. He'll be in the fight always. He'll always be a close fight, scrappy guy. I just couldn't bet on it. I just really couldn't. I mean, when I first watched tape, I was edging towards Fortuna and maybe before I watched pre-tape, I was edging Fortuna maybe towards a bet, but in the end, I just couldn't do it. I just don't see how he's gonna to beat Collier. You're either gonna have to finish him or outgrind him, and I'm just not sure he can. So again, a little similar to the McGee and Strickland fight. I'm going to go Collier, but it's nothing of any sort of confidence whatsoever. I could see a split decision.
it's really good odds though. Like you can get Collier at plus 190, and I think I think that's a mistake with the bookies. I've put a unit on that. I'm quite confident that Collier will push through and get that either a decision or maybe even a late finish if Fortuna really does gas hard.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, I'll jump on that one for you. Not literally with a bet, but in regards to I hope you cash. But yeah, for me, I couldn't have any level of confidence in the fight, so it's just a clear pass from me.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, so that's it for our breakdowns. So we'll just move on to the quick fires now. So I'll kick us off with Matt Brown and Diego Sanchez. Actually, a fight that I'm really, really looking forward to. It's going to be a banger. Sanchez is going to come out. He's going to go nuts. But ultimately, I think that'll be his undoing. I think Brown will stop him coming in. Maybe first round, because I don't see Sanchez maybe going as nuts in the second. But Sanchez is going to come out like a train, like he always does. He's going to go nuts, and yeah, I think Brown will catch him coming in a little like how Al Iaquinta did. So yeah, I've got Brown by TKO round one.
yeah.
What about you?
I love this fight. as well. I actually did consider this for a bet. I think they're both just gonna meet head on in the middle, and I think Brown's striking is just that little bit tighter, and and I think his defense is a little bit better, even though it's not great himself. I think he's just gonna put it on Sanchez, and at this point in his career, I don't think Sanchez could be able to take that heat. So I think Brown will finish it first round, maybe second. I am gonna look more into it and maybe take a bet on Brown inside the distance, like I did with Iaquinta actually. This I just Sanchez at this point in his career cannot do what he used to do, and he's fighting a guy who hits hard, who is relentless, who has very sneaky little elbows and little tricks in the clinch that I think will just mess Sanchez up. Sanchez just doesn't have the underlying skill level to match Brown in a firefight. Maybe if he like works his takedowns and stuff, he can make a fight of it. But you don't know if Sanchez is going to do that these days. It's just
Exactly.
he
And
seems to want a brawl, and wanting a brawl with Matt Brown is not going to go well for you.
I mean, this is a betting podcast after all. I mean, the one bet I actually nearly hit, and he's still looking at it now. He's still staring at me, saying, "Newsome, just bet me." Is the under 2.5? It's -145. Under 2.5. You just mentioned Brown inside the distance. That's -150. So for me, you with them two lines, you either judge, you either get your insurance with your under 2.5 and get the Sanchez knockout as well, or and
Well,
that's your
I
insurance
don't
based
think
on half a
Sanchez
round.
is. I don't think Sanchez is going to knock out Brown. I can't see that ever happening. Sanchez doesn't have much power. Like I know he's this sort of mad brawler, but like when was the last time he actually got a knockout?
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, Mad Brawlers, you can always get caught. Brown is, declined as well. How much has his chin declined? For me personally, I think you're right in the two bets to look at in this fight. You're right with the Brown inside the distance, but also the under 2.5 rounds, because if this fight gets deep into if this fight gets deep into the third round, I don't see a knockout at that point. I think I'd imagine they'd both be quite gassed. They'd have both taken the harder shots that they're going to take in that fight, and ultimately it'll lead to a decision anyway. So I think if this isn't finished in the first 2 rounds, it will go to a decision. So
Possibly.
the
I
under 2.5 at -145, I think makes a lot of
I
sense.
actually just looked at the last time Sanchez did get a knockout, and it was 2008 against a guy called Luigi Fioravanti, who
Okay, that's
I've
not that
never.
long ago, and
Well, that's
Luigi's the
nine
top
years.
top guy.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we all remember Luigi.
Okay. But yeah, it's insurance at the end of the day. Yeah, it might not happen, but insurance is insurance. I personally think if it goes into the third round, it's going to a decision. I think if the fight's going to finish, it'll be within the first and the second round. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what I get the Albini. I'm only going to put one more on, so it will be between the under 2.5 in this fight and Albini by TKO. So I'm not sure. It'll be one of them two, but both really, really good lines in my opinion.
Yeah. So
I'll let you call the next.
Marquardt versus Ferriera. This is actually another fight that I've been looking at possibly putting a bet on, and the bet is actually maybe surprisingly Marquardt by KO. Like I don't think Marquardt has much left in the tank, but as he showed against Camden McCory and CB Dollaway, he can still hit a vicious counter when he wants, like when he can. And Ferreira's chin is possibly the worst chin in the UFC. Like maybe Hamilton might want to argue about that, but yeah, if Marquardt catches him, I can see him going. So I'm gonna have to take a good look at if it's really good odds for that knockout. Like I wouldn't bet it straight, but for that knockout, I'm gonna have to consider a bet, just a small unit bet on that, because like Ferreira, he is a good all rounder, but like that chin is just it's terrible. Like he got badly rocked by Sergio Moraes when Moraes was even like worse of a striker than he is now. So yeah,
Okay, so the comeback on Marquardt to win by TKO KO is +550.
well then I'm gonna make a bet. Yep, that's gonna be a small bet. I'm gonna have to work out exactly how little I can put on it, but
to get your
to
unit.
get me unit. So yeah, that's. I like it's another one where I'm not very confident in it, but the odds just
That's
that's
nuts because Marquardt's not going to submit Mutant Ferriera. He's not going to submit him.
and
So
he's probably not going to win a decision either. I think if it goes to a decision, that's Ferreira's type of fight. The only way Marquardt wins is if he gets that knockout, and there's a good chance of it. Marquardt is one of the most vicious finishers around. I think when he gets a guy hurt, he will go. Like we saw it back in the day against guys like Tyrone Woodley, and even like recently against McCrory and Dollaway. Like if he hurts a guy, he will usually take him out. Like and so if he catches Ferrero with anything, he's gonna take him out. So I'm like I put this very close, like odds wise. I'd say like this is a close fight because it could really go either way. So the odds at 550 on Marquardt's path to victory, that's just crazy odds. Like
yeah, and it's the same reason I bet Jack Marshman against Antonio Carlos Jr. On the last card. Sorry, the card before that. I mean, I got that at plus 900, and that was the guy's only path to victory. So I get it.
that sort of goes against your usual betting style, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, but it was a 0.25 bet. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I
I'll
ain't
put
gonna lose
even
sleep off a 0.25.
I'll put even less on
Um,
this.
well, for me, yeah, this was actually going to be a bet, but I got priced out. I was actually going to bet Mutant Ferreira. I do think he's going to win. I think he can stay away from Marquardt's power, just like he's managed to stay away from a lot of people's power lately. You know, even correct me if I'm wrong. He fought Bambose, stayed away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
wasn't the easiest fight he's ever had though.
no, absolutely not. But I just think you know, he's again, he's improved. He had a bit of a downfall, quite, you know, maybe last year or so, or a few fights ago. But I think he's becoming a bit better, and I do really like him in the matchup. But again, in my notes, I had it at minus 185. Sorry, 175. Um,
Like
but you know, he's minus 280 now, and he opened at minus 225. So it's not.
I f-
I've got priced out of it.
I feel like what you got to think about with this is that you can put 0.19 on Marquardt to win by KO for a 1 unit return. That's 0.19. I mean, I think we can all take the hit if that doesn't come through. And if it does come through, you get a 1 unit off a 0.19 risk on a.
That's 19 grand for me. Can't risk that.
you
I
you
was
must have
joking.
upped your unit size.
um, yeah, no, you know what? I don't hate the bet. But for me, my quick fire, which hasn't turned into a quick fire, is Mutanch.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's my pick. My pick is Ferrero should get the win, but there's such a path to victory that I can't resist.
yeah. So next up, we've got Tatiana Suarez against Vivian Perriera. Another fight that I was going to bet that I got priced out of for Suarez. Now, it's a bit of a weird one. I do think Suarez is going to win. I think she's got the better wrestling. She's going to be the bigger woman inside the cage by I think it's 5 inches. She's also got obviously a big reach advantage as well. I think she'll bully Perriera. I think she'll win. Now, weirdly, I had minus 250 in my notes, and she opened at minus 225, and for some reason, I found myself hesitating, which instantly just put me off the bet in general because for some. If I've got a specific price written down in my notes and I'm getting better than those odds, and yet I still hesitate, there's something not right. So, as we've said a few times in this podcast already, if I'm not sure, I don't bet, and that's exactly what it comes down to here. I think Suarez might get her out of there, maybe, but we don't really know too much about Perriera and what she's like on the mat, on the bottom, against someone that's also a really good wrestler. And I don't know. It's a hard fight to pick an outcome. So just going on flying on the side of wrestling, I'll say Suarez by a unanimous decision. What about you?
Yeah, I didn't look too much at this fight. Like one thing I do know is that Suarez is a very good wrestler, but she's fighting someone who's quite squat and hard to take down. So if it's gonna be forced into some sort of striking match,
Hello.
sorry, I had my mic muted.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so like this was quite an easy pass for me. Like Suarez is mostly a good wrestler, and she's a good wrestler, but she's fighting someone who's quite squat and stocky and probably quite hard to take down, and I don't trust Suarez in a striking match. So yeah, it was a pretty easy pass. Suarez will probably win. So that's my quick fire.
Cool. So yeah, I'll load the next one up. We've got Sage Northcutt and Mitchell Quinones. The fade on Northcutt seems to be real. Everyone seems to be backing Quinones, which I totally get in a way. Northcutt had all this hype, and he's never truly delivered on any sort of level, really. I do like him in this matchup though, and I do think he's going to win. But absolutely no, I ain't putting my money on Northcutt. I don't think I'd bet Northcutt with your money. But the one thing to note is he has moved away from training with his dad and is now with Faber and Co at Team Alpha Male, so that can only improve a guy, as we've discussed already. But yeah, I'm not betting it whatsoever, but I think Northcutt will grind a decision out against Mitchell Quinones.
Yeah, this is. I feel like both are gonna try and want to keep about the same range. They're both going to want that little bit of distance between them to throw their best strikes, and I feel like it's quite hard to call who exactly is going to win that battle. So it's a close fight. And like you said, Northcutt is not someone you can trust. He's never beaten anyone good in the UFC. Obviously, Quinones. How do you say it?
Quinones, I think.
Quinones.
Quinones. Yeah.
Yeah, he's never fought anyone or beaten anyone that good either. So yeah, it's a very easy pass for me. I don't know who's gonna win, so when I watch tape, I couldn't get any clearer picture who's gonna win. So any way this goes won't surprise me.
Yeah. So next one we've got Angela Hill and Ansaroff. Again, no confidence in any sort of bet here. Obviously, I think Hill take it. She just seems to be the more active fighter. She seems to do more, move more, have a bit more speed. I just think Ansaroff might just get picked apart. So yeah, I think Hill will win a decision here.
Yeah, it's probably a good over 2.5, but Hill will probably just, like you say, be more active, land more strikes, get the win. But the over 2.5 feels like a very strong bet. I haven't actually looked at it, but neither of these are going to finish this fight. So maybe look at that.
Yeah. And I'll let you call the last one.
Yeah, I was considering a bet on this fight early on before I saw the odds. Roberson he's a really good K1 striker. He's actually had a few fights in Glory and acquitted himself pretty well. I feel like his elusive movement will tire Stewart out because Stewart always tires. Stewart is early on he's very aggressive and he'll just swarm on guys when he has them hurt, but I feel like he's going to be punching air early on and get quite tired, possibly finish late. But one thing about Stewart is he can hit quite a sweet double leg, and when you see a K1 guy coming over, you always got to have a few question marks about their ground game. So I couldn't bet it at the odds, but the pick quite strongly is Roberson.
Cool. Yeah, mine's the same. I think Stewart might have a bit of early success with the takedowns, but I think Roberson will end up catching him with something later in the round as he's coming in. I just think, technically, from a striking point of view, this is where the fight will go. It's obviously where it'll start, and I think that's where it'll end as well. So I do see Roberson catching with something coming in, but again, nothing about any confidence whatsoever. So yeah, pass from me.
Right. So
which brings us to the end of the podcast. Yeah, I mean, you wanted to name this.
Who let the dogs out?
What was it? Who let the dogs out? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
quite aptly named.
Every single bet I've put on this is a plus bet. So
yeah,
I'm dog hunting. It probably looks like a reaction to last week, but it's really not. It's just the way the card panned out for me.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree, and it's quite weird for me because right now, as we're talking, I've got 3 bets, and one of them's plus 105, one of them's plus 110, and one of them's minus 104. So it's a bit unusual for me as well to have these close odds. Normally, I've got some minus 150s and stuff in there. So yeah, it's quite unusual, but you know, I think the odds have been quite kind to us for this card. So just to round up for me, so far I've got Anthony Pettis at +105, 2 units on that. I've got 2 units on Clay Guida at +110, and I've got 2 units on John Dodson at -104, and then potentially either betting Albini by KO TKO with a couple of units, or maybe the Matt Brown and Sanchez under 2.5. I'll look into that a little bit more, but if you have a look in the description of the video, you'll see both of our third-party tracking records, so you can always check out who we've bet on there towards the end of the fight night. And if you follow any of us on Twitter, we post our bets on there as well. So also for me, I've got my website where I do brief breakdowns of each of my bets, which is newsomemma.co.uk, so you could always check out on there as well. So there's plenty of avenues to have a look at our final bets come fight night.
Yeah, so I got 0.47 on Matthew Lopez at +305. I got 0.91 on Clay Guida at +110. I got 1 unit on Jake Collier at +190. 0.47 on McGee at +216, and I got a parlay with Anthony Pettis and Clay Guida, which works out at +278, and I got 0.30 on that. So yeah, all underdogs. Kind of worrying. I feel like I should get sweeped.
No, I think you'll be right. As long as a couple of them will come in, I think you'll cash naturally. So yeah, that wraps it up. So we'll be back again next week for UFC Sydney, which will be very interesting. Got some interesting thoughts on that. Yeah, thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, you know, anything that you want to do, anything else right now. This is only our second podcast, so it's still quite new. Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Okay, see you next time.